Okay, now I want to review the game between Przepiorka and Prokes. Probably mispronouncing those names. Played in Budapest in 1929, and the opening is a Kali system, which is ECO code D05. So the game starts off by D4, so we have a queen's pawn opening, and then we have knight to F6, which is probably the most common response by black to D4. Then white plays knight F3, and normally white would play C4, and white can still play C4 on the third move. So from black's point of view, we're not too sure if white is just delaying the move C4 or shooting for a different opening. If that's the case, if you know your opponent likes to play the Kali system, you could always play some type of anti-Kali move, like in the game black played E6. But if you don't like the Kali system, you can always play D5, and then when white plays E3, you could play bishop F5, because we know that white wants to play the bishop to D3, and you can just exchange off the bishops. And the white bishop for white is a very good attacking piece. But that isn't what happened in this game. So black plays E6, which could, we could still have a Queen's Gambit decline type opening if white plays C4, but white plays E3, shooting for the Kali. Black plays D5. And just to review the Kali real quick, it revolves around developing the bishop to D3, this knight to D2, castling, and then the game sort of revolves around white playing the key move E4, sort of releasing this dynamic energy behind the pieces, so all the pieces can spring into action. So black just played its third move, D5, and now white plays bishop to D3, continuing with the Kali. This is very typical. Now black plays C5, and just so you know that this is a very key move for black in queen's pawn opening. This pawn will, this flank pawn will help to attack the center. A mistake by a lot of people is to actually playing their knight here before they move the pawn out, and then the pawn gets stuck on this square. It's never able to participate in attacking the center. So while black on the fourth move plays C5, and now white plays C3 for two reasons. If there is an exchange of pawns, or if this pawn takes, we just retake, and if black advances, then we just move the bishop back. And then black plays knight on B to D7. It's pretty typical in the, or maybe I shouldn't say all the time, but maybe more likely or more common in queen pawn openings to see the knight, the queen's knight, develop to D7 for black, and a lot of, or not a lot of times, but it's also more common to see white's queen knight develop to D2. So, but black plays this move here, plays the knight to here instead of to C6 for a couple of reasons. One, if the knight is on C6, it's going to block this file right here. We know that this potentially is a very, it could be a nice file to control, and with the knight sitting there, it would block it. Number two, if this pawn is recaptured, black can recapture with the knight. It also helps to support e4, but it could do this from also from c6. And it also helps, this knight on d7 also helps to defend the knight here on f6. So if it got traded off, we could always just exchange it with another knight. So white, it's now white's sixth move, and white plays bishop on d2, knight on b to d2. Once again, aiming, helping to support the advance of the pawn to e4. Black plays bishop to d6. Better than playing it to e7, where it's just more of a defensive piece. At least on d6, it can help. It's also controlling the, helping to control the e5 square, and also aims. So it looks at these two important squares. White castles with the plan of bringing the rook to e1. Black castles, so both sides increase their king safety. Rook continues to, with its plan of bringing all the pieces in, so it can play e4. And then black plays queen to c7, developing the queen. Once again, like the bishop, it's helping to eye these, helps to support or attack this square, and also now somewhat threatening to take this pawn. If this knight were to move, black can win the pawn. It also places the queen on potentially, if these pawns get exchanged here, the queen would be on the open file. And now white plays the key move, e4. So how is black to respond? Well, if you notice that white is actually threatening to advance the pawn, and that would actually fork these two pieces. So white is actually threatening to win a piece. So black actually takes the d pawn, because it knows that white's going to probably recapture with its own c pawn, and it'll put the queen on the open file. And also, by doing that, obviously now if white advances the e pawn or plays e5, there's no more threat of winning a piece. So white recaptures. It's white's 10th move, and white recaptures, once again renewing the threat of winning a piece. And now black snaps off the e pawn. Then you have to ask yourself, how should white reply? Some people may take with the bishop, but if white takes with the bishop, then black will just capture the bishop, and we know that in the Kali that this white bishop is a key piece for attack, so isn't what white wants to do. So white's 11th move, it captures with the knight. So with this knight capture, hopefully it can almost look like, sometimes people in the Kali say, well, the pieces down here, they're all sort of clumped up. But if you notice now when white captures this pawn, how this knight comes into the attack, and it frees this bishop here. So it looks like, it's almost like white's pieces spring into action. It is true that white now, with these exchange of pawns, has an isolated pawn, but I wouldn't be too worried about that. You shouldn't really fear an isolated pawn. You just have to learn how to play with it. It has its advantages and disadvantages. So, black plays b6, planning to play bishop to b7, where the bishop will look along the long diagonal. I don't know if you can hear the noises in the background, but I'm actually watching some other games on a chess server. So sorry for those noises. And I'm going to have to continue this game in the next video.